Hello, hello. Welcome to Artistic Entrepreneurship, where we will teach artists how to run their artistic career like a business. Today, I am extremely lucky to have opera singer Lindsay Kate Brown as my guest. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on all of the victories and all of the struggles of a real life opera singer in 2023 and beyond. So, help me welcome Lindsay. I'm so excited to have you. How are you?
I'm good. We are here in Houston, Texas, getting ready to do some projects and on the way to the next thing, as always.
Beautiful. I love it. Can you start by giving us a quick 2 minute bio for the people who might not be exposed to you yet?
Absolutely. So, wanted to be a choir director as long as I can remember, and went to undergrad in Mansfield University of Pennsylvania, which is actually where I met Jordan, as an education major. Wanted to pursue opera after my first ever voice lesson, where my voice teacher was like, "Do you want to do opera?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is." So decided to learn more about opera and fell in love with it. Graduated with a degree in both education and performance, and then went to grad school at SUNY Binghamton up in Binghamton, New York, also with Jordan, as a opera performance MM. And then went to Rice University, got an artist diploma in opera. From there was a studio artist with Houston Grand Opera, and then this is my third year out in the wild as a freelancer. Some highlights of my career since then, I guess. Santa Fe, the Met, Dallas, HGO, doing the thing, singing, conducting, teaching, working in advocacy. I kind of do it all. So, yeah, super excited to be here.
Beautiful. I love that. So, what is next?
Oh, okay. Next up, I am doing some work with Dallas Opera. I am going to do Strauss's Electra. I'll be singing the third maidservant. I have to think about this because my brain is like, where am I going? Okay. Third maidservant, singing, and then covering Clytemnestra. So that's my
Beautiful.
next up.
Excellent. And this is a first, right?
This is the first. I've seen and lived in Electroland a little bit, but I've never sung it. So I'm really excited. And I'm doing a little bit of learning some other roles on the side just because I'll be there.
Very
So,
cool.
yeah.
Excellent. So, you talked about how you were inspired into the operatic career at just being exposed to it and that your voice teacher, had exposed you to it. What do you feel like really what exposed you to getting bit by the bug? Like, it's not just my voice teacher said I'm good at this, I'm gonna do it. I know that's part of your journey, but what
Sure.
actually caused you to say, okay, I'm gonna go do a master's, I'm gonna go do an artist diploma in this, I'm going to sacrifice a lot to go chase this career? What was it?
Absolutely. So, in the very beginning of my journey with opera, I was in the library at Mansfield every day as long as I could, listening to operas, looking at vocal scores, learning about conductors, and that's kind of where my love for it came from. I've always been super musical, and that is how I've always been able to communicate with people and to express my own emotions. So finding opera kind of gave me the chance to communicate with others and also to play something I'm not and be different characters and different people. And that's where I decided, I really, really love this. And when I was making the choice to either go into education and work in public schools and things like that, or to try performance, I chose to go to performance because I figured, let's keep on this path, let's keep on the train, see what happens. And I still develop as an educator all of the time, but I know that I could go back there if I needed to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So, can you talk a little bit about specific challenges within the career that you have faced thus far?
Absolutely. So we can talk about financial stuff. The inconsistency of income can be difficult. I am only a third year out into the world, so it hasn't been too long that I've been doing the freelance thing. But inconsistency of income is definitely something that can be stressful. Outside of financial things, there's kind of a lack of education on things that don't have to pertain to exactly to the music. So in all of the schools that I've gone to, I've loved every moment of being in those schools. And I've learned bits and pieces of how to write a resume, how to write a grant, how to speak with donors, what is public speaking. I've learned bits and pieces from all of the universities, but I feel like maybe that's something that was lacking when I left. I did get a lot of that at HGO, but that's a pre-professional program, and not a lot of people get the chance to go to those things. So it's not widespread education in the way
Yeah.
that I would like it to be. And then as a personal thing, it can be quite lonely. You know, you are spending your time alone and on the road, and you have your people and you try your hardest to communicate and to FaceTime and to love on those that you love, but it can be quite difficult when you're by yourself a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have lots of time to dig into the financials because I feel like that's what artists need to hear the most right now. But something that I
Absolutely.
wasn't even thinking about that I know, for those of you who don't know, Lindsay's my best friend, right? Right? Obviously, like we've sung together, but like it's deeper than just that. Can you talk a little bit about dealing with different personalities and interpersonal relationships within the career? You might not get along with someone, you might not agree with how someone lives their lives, but you need to tell a story with them on stage. How does one navigate that as a young artist?
Absolutely. I would say 99% of the time I do get along with people. It's very rare when I don't. And usually when I don't, it's because of something like wild. But generally speaking, I think at the end of the day, you are there to make art and you are there to tell a story and you are there to move people. And so when you go out on that stage, like when I go out there, I'm no longer Lindsay, except maybe the occasional high note that I have to like have a little bit of like prep for. But generally speaking, I go out there and I am somebody else as an opera singer in that character. In recital, it's a little different, but I hope that my colleagues will do the same. And then you can really delve deep into the character and into the story because that's what it's really all about. It's not about anything else. In rehearsal, I hope and pray that everyone is professional and cordial and just happy to be there making music and doing something that they love. And if you don't particularly get along with somebody, you don't have to hang out with them outside of rehearsal, and that's okay.
True. Absolutely. Leave the ego at the door.
Please. Please. There is too much, like, everybody is stressed out about their own things inside the rehearsal, outside the rehearsal. Like, everybody has stuff going on in life. And you, as a person, stressing other people out is just not necessary. Like,
Yeah.
we're all here to make music.
Agreed. All right, let's shift gears into some of the financials. Your experiences
Sure.
being a working opera singer in the world with irregular income based on being a freelance artist, third year
Sure.
out. Can you talk a little bit about what the financial experience was like as someone in a residency program? What did HGO specifically provide to their artists outside of the salary? You can talk about the salary as well, but like what does one
Sure.
get when they're trying to study?
Sure. So from the financial aspect specifically, you are given, at least at HGO, and it might be different depending on the program, but at HGO, you are given a paycheck twice per month. Um, and in my case, that was somewhere around, I think it was like after healthcare, which was amazing, by the way. It was somewhere, I want to say it was like 1550 to 1650, somewhere in there. I can't remember the exact number. And I do believe it tends to go up every year. So that's really great. Outside of the that financial aspect, we do have, if you sing a certain amount of roles beyond your contracted number, you are paid at the end of the year for those roles as well. In my case, partially because I went through the studio during the pandemic and lost a lot of those roles. That didn't happen for me, but I was able to live comfortably on the money that I made from the studio and then a few like outside concert gigs and things.
Got it. Very cool. Now, how about like voice lessons, coachings, etc.? All of those included in your training aspect?
Yes, absolutely. So with HGO, our weekly voice lessons were included. as many coachings as we could fit into the schedule, sometimes almost too many, were, were in the schedule. We had weekly one-on-one language lessons for 2 different languages, as well as conversation class. We had movement class. We had, oh gosh, we had individual like special classes. So like Tara Faircloth came in and did a class on doing taxes an artist. Um, Tons of different things like that, but everything from that aspect in the development stages that was paid for by the company through our donors and our HGO buddies and all of those wonderful people.
Very cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
So how about what has the transition been like if this is year 3, moving from, because you did 3 years in the HGO studio. So you have
Yes.
3 years after your artist diploma and then moving into 3 years of freelance. How has that transition been financially? How is it different for you?
I think that the inconsistency that you get because you're being paid per performance most of the time can be difficult. You have to manage your money like you get a large chunk and then you have to figure out, okay, this is going to last me 2 months or whatever. But I also have to save some for taxes, and I also have to make sure I pay my manager, and I have to pay for housing, and like there's a ton of things that go into that. I don't want to say lucky because I worked really hard, but I am very fortunate that I also have like my own side hustle. I teach a lot of amazing students, and I also work for a tech company online. And both of those things give me steady income outside of the non-traditional income from gigs. So
That's beautiful. Do you feel like right now in 2023, moving into 2024, do you feel like that is something that is important that should be included in the undergraduate master's curriculum? How are you actually going to fund this thing when times get tough? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? How can we make our curriculum better in the world?
Absolutely. So you know this, and I won't give specifics, but I recently just had an interview for a tenure track position at a major university as a voice professor. And we were talking about things that I would like to include in the curriculum that may not exist. And one of the most important things that I think needs to be included is those financial aspects, is those business driven aspects that you don't get unless you stumble upon them, or your school happens to do a 1 day, 3 hour long class on how to do taxes, or you happen to find yourself at a conference or something that you find on your own time and on your own dime to learn these skills. And not to say that personal development outside of school is important or isn't important, because it very much is, but we have so many people coming into the music realm as music educators, as performance majors, as business majors, as tech majors, ped majors, etc., that have to find a way to make a living if they choose to go the route of inconsistent income. And honestly, those who even do have consistent income, I think those skills are necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. So, can you talk a little bit for especially the younger generation who's listening and trying to prepare and get a realistic view of what's to come in their future? In the freelance world, a lot of singers will go from young artist program, resident artist program, some combination, or alternate route. I don't believe that there's really a cookie cutter method to success here. I know
Absolutely.
that you don't either. But what does a typical cover contract look like? A lot of singers move from those programs into the world of covering before they actually get a chance to sing on the big stage or whatever. What are the financials? Can you share with us a ballpark of what that money looks like and how do you divvy it up?
Absolutely. So first of all, I quite like cover contracts. You get to learn, especially for my voice type, I get to learn a lot of roles that I may sing in the future, but I'm a little bit young to sing now. I get to learn them. I get to work on them with some of the best people in the business, and I get to watch somebody who has either done the role or is doing it for the first time, and I get to watch them master that role, so I can kind of take some of that stuff for myself. So I quite like a cover contract, but So, from a financial aspect, it's going to be different depending on the house that you're in, depending on the role that you're in. If you are a member of AGMA, I fully suggest going and looking on their website. They have a lot of really cool information about this is kind of the pay range for this role in this size house. And that can be slightly adapted for covers. Every house is going to be a little different. For instance, oh gosh, where okay, so when I covered at the Met, the I was actually on a weekly contract because I was there for so many weeks. If you're coming in just for one show, you're going to be paid like a weekly stipend and then per performance, whereas I was paid almost kind of like a way that the chorus members were paid. I was paid a weekly salary of sorts, which was kind of cool. And that is going to differentiate. Gosh, it's going to be based on your role. It's going to be based on how many times you've sung that role in general. It's going to be based on how many times you've worked with that company. And it's going to be based on what, if you are managed, what they can get you, because it's going to be different. I think with the Met, my weekly pay after taxes, that's part of that too. I think my weekly pay on that weekly fee thing was like 1,500 a week or so,
Okay.
somewhere around there. And that was when I was doing, what shows was I in there? That was Figaro, that was Eurydice, and that was Boris Godunov.
Got it.
My contract was a little bit bigger on that weekly fee with Marcellina because the role was more substantial. But it's something that is very individualized. Dallas is a little different. Dallas, when I covered, they gave you a fee at the beginning for like housing and your rehearsal, like you've worked on all of this role. So that was that. And then you don't get paid until per performance. So it just depends on how the company works. Um, for me, I try really hard to take my housing for my next gig out of my paycheck. So, like, um, for instance, my last gig in Dallas, I took money out of the gig before that so I could pay for housing. So my housing was paid for. I got the big chunk of money at the beginning of my contract. I wanted that to last the entirety of my time in Dallas, and it pretty much did. And then my per performance fees, a lot of it went to savings, some of it went to Adam, some of it went to taxes, and I kind of did it that way. But it's going to be different depending on where you're working and what you're covering,
Got
basically.
it. Very cool information. Thank you for sharing that. So many young singers need to know what the realistic numbers are. And I feel like even a lot of young singers don't have access to that spot on the AGMA website. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to find.
Yeah,
So you just sharing a little bit of that specifics, early numbers and stuff like that can be really beneficial. So I appreciate it.
absolutely.
In last question around finance, and then I want to move into some other topics. Do you have any tips, tricks, or apps that you have used for budgeting, for trying to look at projections? Do you have anything to pass along to the audience?
Sure. So let's go. Okay. So just in basic investments and basic savings, I use Acorns. I
Hmm.
know that you do that as well. That helps me with a little bit of investment. It helps me with a little bit of savings. It just kind of takes some money out. So I don't even see it, it goes away. Um, Things that I really, really like. I like Ramit's book. What is the how to, what
I
was
will
it?
teach you to be rich.
That is such a good book for anybody looking to kind of make over their finances and starting where you are. It doesn't expect you to have, you know, $40,000 in your savings account and no credit card debt. And it doesn't expect you to do anything. It just shows you the way to get better. So I would recommend that book. I recently have been doing a lot of work on my own. I track my receipts on my computer just in an Excel spreadsheet. I will do that for every single job that I'm on, but also when I'm off a job too, because that's good for tax purposes.
Mm.
Very fortunate from a tax standpoint. My older sister does my taxes. So that's like my one saving grace because I don't really know how to do them still very well. So that is truth, if I'm truthful. So I'm very fortunate for her. Oh gosh, I feel like there's so many. If you have questions about finances, like please feel free to reach out to me or reach out to Jordan, and we can at least point you in the right direction.
Totally. Absolutely.
So
Very good. Thank you. So
yeah.
let's transition into talking about mental health, general well being within this career. How would you
Mhm.
say, how do, recommendations, thoughts, comments, concerns, however you want to talk about this?
Prayers and concerns.
Exactly. How do we balance our passion and our mental health within this career?
Okay. So mental health is something that I care very deeply about. Every time I go to a university or go to work with students, that's something that I talk about, because nobody is nobody is checking in on your mental health other than you.
Yep.
I mean, your family, possibly, your close friends, they may notice things, but the person that knows yourself best is yourself. So I am a firm believer that mental health support, whether you see a therapist or whether you have a non biased third party, is absolutely important. When it comes to this career, I think, so we talked a little bit about loneliness at the beginning and kind of just being out on your own all the time. That's a big stressor for a lot of people. The comparison game,
Mm,
that's a big thing for a lot of people. You see somebody your age or somebody your voice type, and they're, singing on the stage at Operalia, and you're like, why isn't that me? Or they're getting into the Best Young Artist program, and you're like, why isn't that me? And it's just not conducive. And I urge people to remind themselves that hard work begets success.
yeah.
That's, I, my story a little bit. I came from the middle of nowhere. I didn't really have any knowledge about opera or any desire to be an opera singer until I was in college, of course, as we just learned. And I'm doing pretty well. And I think it's because I work so hard, and also I'm just a nice person. We've veered off the topic of mental health.
That's okay.
We
It's
we
all
we
relevant.
we just took a whole detour, but it's fine.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's helpful. I mean, just sometimes people just need to hear validation that their mental health matters and that they should take it
yes.
seriously and that they can take it seriously. I mean, I can't tell you how many students come into my studio at the university that I ask them about their day. I ask them how their mental health is, and sometimes they will cry because they have
Mm-hmm.
never been given permission to talk about it. Their family has said, we don't cry in this house. We don't talk about mental
Yep.
health problems in this house. And so just being that person for someone to be able to talk about it and whatever can be really powerful. And I hope it's something that as our career continues to develop and continues to get better, especially as the next generation takes over
Mm-hmm.
in positions of power, that hopefully that is something we are really looking at and making sure that we are having conversations around.
Yeah. And it's not perfect. Our career is not perfect. And there are a lot of things that I hope change within the next 10, 20, 30 years,
Yes.
And but I do think that more people are becoming more aware of mental health generally and how to protect their own mental health, but also how to set up spaces within opera houses and universities that are conducive to positive mental health, which I
Yeah,
think is great.
exactly. That's beautiful. So, another specific question for you is, I think one of the most difficult things to prepare for as an opera singer going out for their first or whatever number of
Mm-hmm.
audition seasons is the rejection letters, whether or the emails or whatever. If whether it's a rejection around getting a live audition, right? They listen to your
Mm-hmm.
pre-screens, they're like, we just don't have time for you, whatever. Or you had the live audition and the rejection comes after. How do you have any thoughts on things that have worked for you? On how do you pick yourself up and move on after you get 1, 5, 20 rejections in a season, and what does one do with
Yeah,
that information?
absolutely. So rejection is tough. It is tough for everybody, regardless of what career you've chosen. Somebody not literally saying they don't want you, but that feeling is not a nice feeling for everyone. And so I understand, I sympathize when that happens, and I have been through it many a time. If I get rejection letters or just like no, generally, I like to kind of take a step back for like 5 minutes, let the kind of like, I don't want to say the shock of it, but let the feeling go away. And then I go back, I read the letter, see what it has to say. If there's anything specific, like if it's not one of the cookie cutter letters, I'll take a read to it, because sometimes they're quite positive. Like, hey, couldn't offer you an audition or couldn't offer you a slot in our program this year. I really am loving to see what you're doing. Please come back next year.
Yeah.
Those things, at least from my experience working with artistic administrators and working with different programs, those things are not chosen at random. If you receive a letter like that, it is true. You know,
Right.
They want to see that improvement. So I think taking that into your brain space in that moment is really important. But I am a huge advocate of self-reflection. I am constantly trying to see what I can do better and what I am succeeding at and what areas I'm lacking in. I think let the shock of the rejection kind of pass, and then take a step back and say, okay, I sang this audition, I didn't get the role, or I didn't get a spot in this program. Go back, listen to, or think in your brain about like what that audition felt like, how you felt about it, what the general reaction is, but also know that sometimes it has nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has to do with, oh, they heard 12 amazing sopranos that day and they could only take 4. Right. Sometimes they like it literally might not have anything to do with you. So also take it with a grain of salt, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. I always say give yourself 24 hours to feel your feels. Give yourself 24 hours, go eat your favorite meal, go watch your favorite movie and cry, call your best friend and say, I'm quitting, I'm never singing again. Allow yourself to feel the feels. Not that we've ever called each other and said that before.
I've never cried to you this week about anything.
No, never. So feel your feels, call your best friend, keep your circle small, right? When you're having these conversations with people. Please don't take it to social media and say, this career sucks, I'm quitting. Keep it into your trusted circle. Keep things, tight and clean, and but allow yourself to feel the feels, because they're valid, and what we do is difficult. So don't
it's
you don't have to
very
undermine.
personal.
Yeah,
you know, for specifically vocalists, our instrument is inside of us, and so if someone says no, we don't want you, not as harshly, of course, it can feel like a personal attack.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, it's usually not, but it feels that way. So yes, allow yourself to feel the feels. I am a crier. Just generally, like I cry at good things, I cry at bad things. I cried yesterday because somebody got killed in the show I was watching that I had no investment in, but they died and I cried.
Tear.
It's you just accept it. It's fine.
Beautiful.
But do what you need to do.
Yes. All right. Shifting to personal branding. In general, conversations around marketing. And this is where we're really looking at how do artists, how do opera singers, anyone listening, how do you treat your artistic endeavors like a business? Not just willy-nilly hoping for the best. You know, I love to sing, so I'm going to make a career out of it. No, it's blood, sweat, tears, and strategy all day long. So can you talk a little bit specifically about personal branding? How has it been essential for you? What parts of it are difficult for you? Things that you've learned? What are some things you would like to pass along to the listener that may be hearing about personal branding for the first time?
Sure. So personal branding, I think, is maybe something that people don't think about when it comes to what we do.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think, if you can't get yourself into the frame of mind that you are a business, I understand that, because you are one person. And I get that, thinking of you in the same way that somebody who runs Microsoft thinks about Microsoft and their personal branding. I get that that can be hard, that that's a big leap. When it comes to personal branding for me, it's about who you are as a human and how you represent yourself. That for me is number one. So everybody who's ever worked with me, hopefully, and if you're listening to this and you disagree with me, please come tell me. But everybody I feel like I work with in any type of professional situation can come away with an interaction with me thinking, wow, she's really prepared, and wow, she's really kind, and wow, she's really easy to work with, and wow, she works hard. Like, those are the things that I hope I leave wherever I'm working.
Yeah.
So that is part of personal branding. It's not necessarily like what colors best represent me, but it can be part that too. But that is kind of an aspect that I think people don't think of. So I would say that is important. I would say, people are going to get in discussion with on like Fox and things like that, and like how you brand yourself. Like, I'm a dramatic spinto coloratura base, like
Exactly.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all of those things. But and so people may get that could be part of your personal branding depending on how your thoughts and feelings are on that. It can be like with Jordan, I can tell you 99% of doubt what he's going to wear on any given day. He's going to wear a black shirt and black pants, possibly dark jeans. Mm-hmm. There may be a scarf.
With like Doc
that's with Doc Martens. Yeah. That's the vibe. And like that's part of branding as well. Yeah. Like, that's the case. Branding can be about your presence on social media and like how you represent yourself there. It can be so many things. I think at the end of the day, though, personal branding comes down to consistency. And are you consistently putting in the same quality of work, the same quality of spirit, the same quality of effort, in my opinion?
Yeah. I mean, personal brand, again, like you just said, is it's so different to everyone. But I think the general thing that I want for artists to think about is, can someone who does not know you go to your page and start building a know, like, and trust factor with you? Can people see, okay, he's a tenor, but he also has a private voice studio. He also works at a university, and he teaches people how to build businesses online. That's interesting. And then they go and watch one of my live videos, and then they get to see my demeanor. And then they go and watch my stories and see that I have a dog, and that I like to go to the gym, and that I love to try to eat carnivore. Like, little things about people, picking up, so people can start to go to your social media and build a connection with you before they've even met you. And I think that is where the power of social media lies, is that when you use it correctly, you can get a jump start on building relationships with people. That's something that your website will always struggle with, building that personality into it. You can pay the best website designer, but we go to social media to see who people really are. And let me tell you, people can smell fake a mile away. So if you go on there and try to build a persona that is not real, that is fake, that is something you want to be perceived as, but it's not really you, everyone can tell. So you might as well be authentic. You might as well be real. Share your real life. Share stuff outside of opera. I know so many opera singers that are terrified to share anything but opera on their social media pages because they're afraid that companies will not take them seriously. People, you want the donors to go look at your social media. You want people to go see, and you want them to be like, that guy's cool, that girl's cool, that person's cool.
Yep. Those are my I actually had a recent discussion with David Lamelli about this, because he's a huge advocate for social media, and we were talking about it with. I did an interview with him for United in Opera, and we were talking about it, and he was saying, he is one seat at the table, but his impression is that people who are taking an active role in social media on a consistent level actually tend to bring in more ticket sales because they're more well-known, just generally speaking, but it also humanizes them. So I think that's something to consider. That's not to say that you need to post 5 things every day. That's not to say you have to constantly do anything. Like, do what's best for you and do it at your comfort level. Um, but share who you really are and be authentic and be real. Be real. That's also an app. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I found that out yesterday. No idea. I'm good at social media, but like I it I was in a Be Real yesterday.
Yeah, it's
So
not my favorite app, to be honest, be real.
I truthfully didn't know it was happening.
Yeah.
And then like literally the picture I was in was hideous, and I was like, retake it, and they're like, no, that it's not Be Real, Lindsay, and I was like, that's not how life works. So I got very stressed out about it for a second, but anyway, back to our lives. But yeah, so being real and being like your actual human, authentic self on social media, I think is really important.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me.
I love it. That's thanks for the insight. So, can you talk a little bit about what you have witnessed from when well, I won't tell, so we don't tell people how old we really are, but I was going to say the year we graduated from places.
I just had my birthday.
I know, right? Birthday girl. How can you talk a little bit about how you have witnessed the opera industry evolve and change within your period of being involved?
Yes. I'd like to think that I've seen more people become accepting for people of size, people of color, people of differing abilities. I'd like to think that there are more companies that are going that route, which I think is amazing. I think companies are leaning into technology more. So whether that's adding technical elements like electronic outside of normal lights to stage productions, whether that's videoing productions, not just Med HD, but you know, showing your university's opera as a live stream, or producing it for film to be shown at a later date. That was something I did at HGO. Hi, Pluto.
Sorry, y'all.
That's something that I did. So technology use, I think that's important. I think showing opera singers as real life people is becoming more important. I think the age of like the diva is on the way out. There are still some lingering people, and not to say that they shouldn't be lingering, but I think our generation and the generation above us and the generation below us, they're more chill and just are showing themselves as real people, I think, a little bit more. What else? I mean, lots of things, and I hope that it continues to change.
Yeah.
There's some places there's a bigger push towards new music, which I think is great. But I think people are also diversifying just generally what they're programming, which I think is really cool, and I hope that continues. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the standards. I could watch Bohème and cry all the time. I'm never gonna sing in it, but I'll watch it.
Hey, who knows?
Who knows? I'll be Marcello. It'll be fun.
Perfect.
Perfect. But like, I could watch those all day, but you know, people are starting to come out with all these new and imaginative things or programming something less known. And I think that's really amazing too. So still lots of work to be done.
Yeah.
Still lots of things I'd like to see change, but we're getting there.
Excellent. So to wrap this up, if you could go back to your younger self and give yourself a piece of advice
Oofda.
to the young 18 to 21-year-old opera singer desiring to, Lindsay Kate Brown desiring to become an opera singer, what advice would you give to yourself?
I think that I would say, number one, to be kind to yourself. Our career is very hard, and there's a lot of people giving a lot of opinions. And not to say that some of those opinions aren't valid, and not to say that they aren't helpful, but it can be a lot mentally for you, Lindsay, and for, whoever is listening to this. So being kind to yourself and taking things in stride, I think, is important. Good job on keeping consistent, generally speaking. Keep doing that. And I think don't be afraid to be yourself. I think a lot of my younger years, and this might go back to the lots of opinions thing, but I think a lot of my younger years, I was trying to fit into these boxes that all of these very well-intentioned people were trying to help me get into. And I'm so grateful for all of the mentors and the artistic teams and all of the people that have been a part of my life. I'm so thankful for them because I wouldn't be here without them, and I owe a lot of what I can do now to them. But I think I spent a lot of my younger years trying to fit into these boxes that they wanted me to fit into. When now I don't feel that way. I still take those things and I listen to advice and I listen to criticism and try to adapt it to what I'm trying to do. But now I just feel like I want to create my own path and I want to do my own thing. And that to me is, I am an opera singer. I am a conductor. I am a pretty kick butt teacher. Like, I am an advocate for young artists. Anybody who reaches out to me, I will help them if I can. And I have made an impact on the opera world. And that's because I allowed myself to be my own path instead of trying to fit into something else.
I love it. Beautiful. You heard it here first, folks. Lindsay Kate Brown in the house. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, Lindsay?
Ooh, okay. So best bet is probably Instagram. So at Lindsay Kate Brown, Lindsay. When people write emails to me and they spell it with an E, I want to throw my MacBook every time. I'm like, it's in my email. So Lindsay Kate Brown on Instagram, Lindsay Kate Brown on TikTok. I'm getting pretty close to 1,000 followers on TikTok, which means I can go live and I can do some stuff with people on live, which makes me happy. Those are the two best places. If you go to my website, you can send a contact form and email me, but truthfully, social media is probably the best bet. So, yeah.
Excellent. I love it. Well, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. I know time is one of the most valuable resources. I appreciate it. Thank you for all you do to give back to the operatic career and the next generation of artists. And I can't wait to see the feedback on this episode. So if you are new here, be sure to click subscribe, click follow, and I would love for you to take a screenshot of wherever you're watching or listening right now. Put it in your stories and put your biggest takeaway. What's something that you can share to your people about something you learned from this? Whether it was a little bit of hope. Maybe you got, okay, maybe I'm going to give it one more year. Or you know what? I have never thought about investing. Lindsay said that her and Jordan both use Acorns. I'm going to go check out Acorns. Like, who knows what you got from this podcast? But go out there and share it, because if you got something for it, I can promise you, you have 5 friends who need something for it too. So take a screenshot, put it in your stories, tag us at JMS Tenor and at Lindsay Kate Brown, and we would love to see what you all got from this. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves. Stay happy, stay healthy, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye!